So this is a see it played video of Hannibal at Bay, which is volume 1 of the Rome at War series from Avalanche Press. So I've set up scenario 1. Set up scenario 1. Watchtower of Agathocles. Set it up, and we have, it's all cavalry and leaders. All cavalry and leaders. We have the Carthaginian force here in the center of the map, and we have 2 Roman forces here. Let's see what happens. While we're going to pick up the sequence of play here on turn 1, remember that there is this special rule for this scenario called ambush. On the first turn only, the Roman player automatically goes first. There is no order of battle roll on turn 1. However, the Roman player does have to roll normally to see how many of his formation leaders he can activate. So we go to the rules and we pick up Section 3, sequence of play. Roman war is played in a series of turns. These turns in this game have a varying number of phases, but they are played in this order. Number 1 is weather phase. No weather in this scenario. We'll skip it every turn. I don't think there's weather. To my knowledge, I didn't see any reference to weather, so I don't think there's any weather in this scenario. Reinforcements phase probably wouldn't have that at the start of a scenario anyways. We'll skip it. Phase 3 is the command phase. This is where we identify formation leaders that are within the command radius of their army commander. When we were setting up the forces, there was a leader that was always for each side identified as army commander. So it's Hanno for the Carthaginians, and it is Scipio, Publius, Cornelius Scipio here for the Romans. So we want to pay attention to who our army leader is. Trying to think. These, as with all Avalanche Press games, playing them is a discovery learning experience. So I don't see that there's any obvious way to tell that Scipio is the army commander as opposed to Laelius or Massinissa. So so I guess you have to look at the scenario, pay attention, and remember who your army commander is. Okay. So in the command phase, we would determine out of command radius, but I don't think that, I imagine that would not apply on the first turn, so we'll skip it. 4 is order of battle. This is where we would determine this normally, but this is where we're told in the scenario special rule ambush that there is no order of battle determination on this turn 1 of this scenario. So now we go to step 5, which is first activation phase. This is where we take a die, we roll it, and I'm going to go with what I rolled earlier before I started the video. So the Roman player rolls a 4. And in this step or phase, it tells you first player attempts to activate leaders. Okay, and it tells you 5.2. We're going to go to 5.2. 5.0 in the rules is order of battle and activation. By the way, when I first looked over these rules, I was being thrown off by order of battle. This is literally order of the battle. Literally, it's really order of activation. It's not order of battle as in a listing of your forces. So it's order of battle. And activation. Okay, 5.2 first activation says for the first player rolls 1 die and subtracts the result, 4, from the Army Commander's Initiative rating. So for the Romans, we know it's Scipio. And now we look at, so we're going to subtract the die roll 4 from Scipio's initiative rating. Yes. So we look at Scipio here now. Right away, we look at, well, yeah, we want to know, okay, here's Scipio. We want to know, we have his name. We have 3 values, 4, 2, 5. We want to know which one's his initiative rating, right? So we go to the rules. By the way, I didn't mention this before, or I didn't emphasize. I'm using the 3rd edition series rules. I'm not aware of any edition after this. So 3rd edition, to my knowledge, is the last edition. But when we go to leaders in the rule book, it says leaders have 2 numbers, tactical rating and initiative. Whoa! These pictures show 2 values, right? Claudius has a 1, 2. Boudica there has 2, 4. So what's going on here? And when we go to the quick reference card, I think this quick reference card is very old, and of course the rules, we're using the 3rd edition rules. So on the QRC quick reference card, not only do we have an example of a leader counter, it's actually Publius Scipio is actually shown as the example. But anyways, it says radius, left, middle values tactical, right values initiative. So bottom line is they took later, after this and after these pieces, they dropped the radius on the counters, and I think they went to a standardized radius. We'll get to that when it applies. But in any case, per 3rd edition rules, we're not using the leftmost value. So anyways, so given that, we see that his tactical rating is 2 and his initiative is 5, and we disregard the 4. Okay, so we know his initiative's 5. We take a die roll. 4 minus 5 is 1. Leaves 1. So that is the number of formations that... Now, one thing I have to say that I really like about Avalanche Press games is that they typically have like a glossary up front, and their glossaries are generally extensive enough that they serve as a good rules summary and reference. Never completely, but you know, a partial rules reference. So under the definitions at the front of the rule book, it says initiative rating, the 2nd number on a leader piece, or in this case the 3rd number. Higher numbers are better. An army commander's initiative equals the number of friendly formation leaders he can put in command. So that's what we're looking at. So back to first activation. The result is the number of formations that the player may activate. 5 initiative rating minus a die roll 4 is 1. The Romans can activate 1 formation. So now what? So we have our I guess that's the first activation phase. So we go to the action phase. Whenever a leader of either side who is in command activates, he may conduct the following actions with his formation's units in the following order. Activation phase. Command and determination. Order of play. Okay, so Once a player knows how many formations he or she can activate, the player announces which ones will activate and then activates them one at a time in any order desired. When a formation activates, the owning player may move and fight with its leader plus any sub-leaders assigned to the formation, and all its units conducting actions in the following order: artillery, bombardment, charge, movement, assault. This sequence of actions makes up an action. This sequence of actions makes up an action phase. When a formation's action phase is done, turn its leader sideways to show that it can activate again in the same turn. That's where I'm going to use my own markers instead of using the sideward turning method. Okay, so let's say that Scipio's here. Scipio can activate one formation. Let's say Scipio is going to activate Laelius. Laelius here with 2 Italian cavalry units. I just want to point out at this point, with all of the historical stuff included in the game, I find it interesting that I have not found, maybe I missed it, but I haven't found where the unit designations are actually explained in detail. So for example, this unit, I know it's a heavy cavalry. I can figure that out from the rule book. Its designation is IT1 Alpha. The alpha just means that it's the first step. Could have chosen another way to do that, but okay, the little a at the end means it's the first step. But this unit's name is IT. Nowhere, I assume that means Italian cavalry, but nowhere is that actually, that I found, is that spelled out. And it would be one thing if the game had no historical background, right? No scenario background. This has that, and then all the units have greatly abbreviated designations, and it just seems odd that you don't get the full historical flavor of knowing for sure from the designer what was meant by these designations. But I'll go ahead and guess, right? Italian, RM Roman, CA Carthaginian, NU Numidian. Okay, I'll go ahead and make all of those assumptions. All right, so Scipio is going to activate Laelius with his 2 Italian cavalry, heavy cavalry. Okay. There's no artillery. Charge? Well, charge. Let's see. Charge is before movement, so let's see if they can charge. I'm not sure if yeah. Let's see. They have an option to charge. Why not consider charging? Charge, section 12. Section 12, and I just noticed that the 3rd edition rules that I'm using, the numbers don't even correspond to what they used to be in the earlier edition of the rules referenced on the QRC. So that's that. Okay, so charge. Active heavy cavalry, light cavalry, elephant, and chariot units that are in command may charge enemy units during the charge segment. Sometimes camel cavalry may charge as well if allowed by scenario special rules. Each charge must target a single area. Okay. Though different units may charge the same area from different directions simultaneously. Charge requirements, distance, and movement. Each charging unit must start the charge segment in an area that is 2 to 4 areas away from the target area. So let's say that Laelius is just going to charge, I don't know, does it have to be a straight, let's say, let's go for the weak point, right? They'll charge the single Numidian cavalry here in area 38. Okay, see if we can do that. 2 to 4 areas away. I assume, well, we gotta consider diagonal, right? Is diagonal diagonally adjacent? Map areas are diagonally adjacent. They're common. Well, that's just a definition, but do we count it or not? Diagonally adjacent areas are open for tracing command radius charges, movement and assault, only if both adjacent areas flanking the diagonal boundary are free of any units. Friendly units do not block command radius, and both areas are flanking the diagonal boundary. I think that's bad writing here. Both areas flanking the diagonal boundary are free of prohibitive terrain. So we have no prohibitive terrain. So can these guys charge 1 diagonal, 2, 3? Charging units may only cross points of diagonal adjacency if both areas flanking the diagonal boundary point contain no enemy units and no prohibitive terrain. So he couldn't go here, here, and then charge here diagonally because there are enemy units on one side of the diagonal path. Yeah, sounds right. Charging units may not enter areas occupied by other friendly units. A lone leader does not block a charge. Got it. Okay. So units and leaders that charge may not move during the movement segment or attack in the assault segment. They may defend, withdraw, retreat from enemy charges, and advance normally. Charging units and units defending against a charge may not use missile fire. Okay, that makes sense. Procedure. Resolve charges made by all units in one area. If units from more than one area are charging the same target area, resolve each group's charge separately. The charging player decides which charge to resolve first. If one group's charge eliminates all units in the target area or forces them all to retreat, the other group's charge is wasted, and the other group does not get... Okay. Step 1. The charging player moves all charging units into areas adjacent to the target area. So this is my target area, area 38. Let's first figure out how far do they actually go. These are heavy cavalry and a leader. So it looks like they have a movement allowance of 4. So I do think that it's, 1, 2. I think that's like that. So step 1, charging player moves all charging units in areas adjacent to the target area. I think that with this simple terrain, I think that this is the movement allowance. Leaders, heavy and light cavalry, horse archers, and chariots is 4 movement points. Yeah, okay, so I assume it's 1. Why am I assuming that? Where is the terrain effects chart? Or is there a separate area for terrain? Terrain movement. Okay, when entering an area or crossing a boundary that contains multiple terrain types. No, that's... It says see terrain effects chart. I don't ever remember seeing a terrain effects chart for this particular game. So, luckily, I guess I'm supposed to use... Is that what I'm supposed to do? Isn't that interesting? I don't remember ever seeing a terrain effects chart for this particular game. So I will use the Queen of the Celts terrain effects chart. Oh, why not? Clear 1. Okay, so this is always going to be, for this game, this is pretty much always going to be 1 movement point per area. I don't think anything's going to happen up here on the rise. I think all the action is going to be down here. So that's that. Okay, so step 1, moved my chargers. Defending player makes a morale check for the target area and takes a step loss if the check fails. All right, we get our second roll. So how do we do a morale check? It says 10.3. Let's go to rule section 10.0 is morale. Unit morale. The second number on a unit's playing piece is its morale value. So this new one has a morale of 4. All right, 4. In areas, morale value is calculated as follows. Multiple long units. We don't have any long units in this scenario at all. 1 long unit present. Don't have any of them. No long units present. Use the average around it. We only have 1 unit. So the quick reference card says biggest unit in area. We only have 1. And his morale is 4. In terms of steps plus tactical rating of leader. We have no leader. So I guess it's just 4. Modifiers, add the tactical rating of senior leader. We don't have any leaders in the target area. Subtract 1. If the original army commander has been eliminated, no. Subtract 1 from the area's morale. During combat, if the largest long unit, we don't have any long units. I guess that's it. So what do we do with 4? Whenever an area containing inactive units... Yeah, okay. Morale checks. Whenever an area containing inactive units is charged, that's our case right now. Inactive unit, Carthaginians being charged by Roman heavy cavalry. Roll 1 die and compare the result to the area's morale. We determine that the area's morale is 4. Ooh, 6. Ooh, that's not good. If the result is less than or equal to the area's morale, there is no effect. If the result is greater than the area's morale, then the individual unit in the area that has the lowest current morale suffers a step loss. Ooh, wow. This happens before combat is resolved. So, takes a step loss. So, this Numidian cavalry, designation 2, I think it only has 2 steps, and it starts already reduced 1 step. I don't think there is a C step level for this unit. So I guess he's eliminated. Let's see what well, I guess he would be eliminated. So let's see. He failed his morale check. He's supposed to take a step loss. The defending player decides whether to withdraw or countercharge with any eligible units. He or she is not required to do the same thing with all eligible units. Units being pursued may not countercharge but may withdraw. So this is a whole separate step. So in step 2, you fail your morale check, you take a step loss. So I guess he's eliminated. Wow. I didn't really expect that. But, okay. If units remain in the target area after morale checks and any withdrawals, no. Yeah, what happens if units remain in the target area after morale checks and withdrawals, and if no units countercharge, the defending player totals the strength of all units in the target area? No, we're not doing that. What are we doing here? It doesn't say what to do when they're just all gone. Forced retreats? No. Pursuit? No. If defenders retreat? No. Charge repelled? No. If defenders retreat, I can't find out what happens when the defender just simply gets wiped out. I see all these other cases. I cannot see. Force them all to retreat. Interesting. Very typical of Avalanche Press rules. I don't know, maybe I'm after years of dealing with, well, I can't make it sound like it's that long, but it is still years of dealing with Avalanche Press rules. What happens if the defender just gets eliminated? They advance. Okay, what's advance? Go to section 15. If all units in an area withdraw or are eliminated in combat. See, I'm going to a whole nother section and I finally get a reference. Or are eliminated in combat, which is interesting because it wasn't really eliminated in combat, but I think when you get to Avalanche Press rules, you got to think loosely. Okay, I guess kind of lost in combat. Then any or all adjacent enemy units and leaders attacking that area may advance into if desired. Why is it if... Okay, next, mandatory advance. If a charge eliminates all units in the charged area... All right, just leave it there. That's what happened, right? The charge eliminated all units there. Then all charging units and leaders must advance in the vacate area. Okay. Boom. Laelius has severed the Carthaginian line. Okay. Now what? Must advance into the vacated area. I guess that's it. A unit may not advance more than one area after combat and may not attack again after advancing, except when pursuing following a charge. This can't possibly be considered pursuing, I would think. Okay, so I guess that's it. So here, Laelius has activated. I'm going to mark him as being done. Right now, because these units have occupied this area, severing the Carthaginians in two, let's get to facing, right? Does facing matter? 8.0, the entire section, 8.0 is on facing. So let's see. Facing, does it matter? Facing is direction in which the front of a long unit points. Facing does not apply to small units in any way. Okay, all of my units in this scenario are small units, so facing doesn't apply. Facing applies to the long oblong units. Okay, so I can ignore this entire section. Wow, does that mean there's no such thing as I wonder if there's no such thing as outflanking for square units or small units. I don't know. We'll see that when it comes up. I guess that's the Roman activation. Scipio only had one formation to activate. We go back here. There is no movement or assault because that was it for Laelius there. Second activation phase. The second player now attempts to activate his or her leaders and conducts an action phase, with each activated leader in his formation repeating artillery, charge, movement, assault. Okay, so now it would go to, well, Hanno there is only one formation. So Hanno, and Hanno is an army commander. Does he have to, why does he have to roll to activate himself? That seems strange. Army commander. Okay, so back to now attempts to activate. So I think Does Hanno still have to roll for himself? There's only one formation, so... But there's a if he has to roll for himself... Well, I guess I'll just do it. See how this works. So... Ooh, and he rolls a 6. See, Hanno has an initiative of 3. He rolled a 6, well over. So if the result is greater than the army commander's initiative, the player may activate no formations. The enemy player rolls to activate instead. So I guess that does mean... Well, there's a whole section on leaders, so... and that only really deals with leader movement, leaders in combat, leader casualties, and lone leaders. And that's it. So I guess there is no... freebie. I guess there's no freebie of an army commander activating himself. Yeah. I guess. So the Carthaginians are out, and it would go back to the Romans. And so I guess Scipio would roll again. He rolls a 6 too. Oh, what happens when we just had 2 failures in a row? Does that work? Consecutive failures. 5.6 under order of battle and activation. If one player, that was Hanno, rolls higher than his army commander's initiative when trying to activate formations, and the other player does the same thing, Scipio rolled a 6, immediately thereafter, then all action phases for the turn end immediately. Proceed directly to the recovery phase. So it is a forced end. So Scipio, I guess, is out of luck as well as Massinissa. So, and Hanno as well. So, okay, so we go right to recovery. Okay, so I got to go back to sequence of play. Where's recovery? Recovery. Both players attempt to recover. Well, we don't have any recovery. But in this phase, you're attempting to recover unit step losses. That's interesting. Replace eliminated leaders and determine whether armies collapse. Then you go to a new turn, adjust all leader pieces. Well, I'm going to remove my done marker. I guess I should have marked Scipio too. No, Scipio doesn't get marked. Huh. Yeah, you're rolling against the army commander, but that in itself is not in activation. Okay. Start the next turn. All right, so we stepped through the first turn. And this turn had only one formation activation, but in that formation activation, Laelius, a Roman commander, charged with his heavy cavalry and eliminated one Numidian cavalry unit. And there we go. Now, I do have to check on whether I did my charge movement right. I don't know if it has to be some type of straight line or something, but there we go. We have had our first action in the first scenario. Watchtower of Agathocles from Hannibal at Bay, Volume 1 of the Rome at War series.